In Season 3, Episode 9 of The Way Home, titled Too Late to Turn Back Now, the Landry women confront the aftermath of their past decisions, each yearning to understand Colton's true thoughts. This introspection introduces tension as they strive to rebuild their lives while carrying the weight of their histories. Amidst this, Jacob appears to be concealing a significant secret from them, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding narrative. This episode serves as the penultimate installment of the season, setting the stage for the upcoming finale. Viewers can anticipate that the revelations and developments in this episode will lead to further twists and answers in the concluding chapter. The following morning, Kat and Jacob sit and gaze at Elijah's house, a burned-out ruin. The fact that Colton was present the night before and saved Jacob's life is something that neither of them can go past. Jacob decides it should be Kat because he has things to do at Goodman Vineyard, but they both agree that one of them must stay and assist Elijah in reassembling the pieces. Returning to the present, Jacob explains what transpired to Elliot, Alice, and Dell. They talk about how Colton believes he is solely to blame, but Jacob affirms that Cyrus is definitely at fault. He promises that Cyrus will live to regret it, adding that although he may appear dead to the others, he is not to him. Elliot goes on to say, if Colton felt guilty for any reason, perhaps that explains what family history he chose to share and what part to withhold. Kat is there with Susanna and Thomas. Jacob informs Elliot, explaining her goals. In an attempt to determine when all of this occurred in Colton's timeline, Alice inquires about Colton's appearance. Because Jacob claims to have been wearing a black suit, Alice believes Colton visited there on the day of Rick's burial. When Alice claims that Colton never provided an explanation, Dell is angrier and asks her to go back to 1974 for clarification. According to Jacob's research, the vineyard seems to be prone to fires, which would render the wine unfit for consumption. As they begin to relax, Kat and Thomas are obviously at odds. Kat comes to the conclusion that they can't cheat fate, after they both clarify that in alternate timelines, the other would never be able to determine whether something similar claimed their lives. In the present, Elliot finds a hidden chamber in the wooden frame after inadvertently knocking the clock off the mantel. When he opens it, he sees what appears to be a thin golden handle. After installing a cutting-edge irrigation system, Louis at the vineyard expresses his pride in the founding families working together to develop his ideal winery. Jacob is closely monitoring which keys are required for the tank as Louis asks him to complete paperwork in the office. When Alice returns in 1974, she finds out that Colton has been asked to record a new demo in San Francisco. The problem is that Alice refuses to go, even though the producer wants her there as well. She is horrified to hear that Evelyn plans to go as well, claiming it's her ticket out of here. Having not spoken to Alice since she departed, Colton confides in her how much he hopes the voyage brings him to Dell. When Alice tries to hitchhike with Colton, Evelyn tells her to stay there because they need to talk. Evelyn claims that Alice was correct when she apologized for the incident at the pond in Episode 8. It's evident how much Colton is still swayed by Dell. She is certain that by traveling to San Francisco, she would be able to break the spell and declare her continued love for him. Alice is more focused on the two of them finishing from school, but Evelyn has plans to purchase an apartment and throw elegant dinner parties. Be the one to open the door, the girl tells Alice, turning around to paraphrase T.S. Eliot. Make things right. Life is too short to live with regrets. Suzanne informs Kat that Cyrus has not yet recovered consciousness. Unable to make sense of the fire's happenings in relation to the town she once knew, Susanna announces she is writing a book about Port Haven's past as Kat advised. She clarifies that once Cyrus passes away, his kids will take control and expel her, adding that she doesn't feel safe. She is still his property if he survives. Kat urges her to document Cyrus' actual actions and alter his will. Suddenly, someone yells that Cyrus is awake. Alice sees Colton dive into the water, but he doesn't come up. She yells, "What are you doing in that pond?" Just before the screen goes dark. The doctor informs Susanna at Cyrus' bedside that he will probably never be able to speak again, since his lungs have been irreparably destroyed by smoke inhalation. From the doorway, Cyrus sees Kat listening, but he is speechless. Returning to the pond, Colton tells how Fern, who firmly believed the tales she told him, advised him not to enter it until he was older. He discloses that he attempted to save Evelyn by jumping into the pond for the first time in 1965, but it was unsuccessful. Colton's perspective shifted at that point, thinking the pond was only hazardous for children. But after a disagreement with his mother on the last day of school, the day Jasper promised him the job at Coyle's, he flung his rucksack in the pond in a fit of rage. He fell in while attempting to get it, landing where we last saw him in 1814. He tells Alice that he encountered his forefathers and that Jasper's folk songs taught him how to guide them through the year of no summer, implying that Colton thought Jacob was of his time. He hoped Fern would be happy when he told her what had happened, but she was upset. She scolded him, "You broke the rules by telling them their future." Since he had grown up believing Fern's stories, he wanted Evelyn to know the truth about the pond. He used an invisible ink message in the Alice books to inform her that he knew she was heading to Morocco. Before Dell came to town, she never read them. Colton claimed that the pond always takes you where you need to go, and that he could time travel to prevent the accident from occurring after Rick passed away. Rather, he discovered Cyrus burning the Landry house because he thought he was to blame for what he had told them about the crops. Before leaving town, Colton says he wanted to try jumping one more time, but he believes that since he broke the rules, nothing works anymore. Colton responds that he thinks Alice is also a time traveler, when she wonders why he told her. Susanna makes a contract with Cyrus in 1816. Susanna says she wants to manage Port Haven as she sees fit and be Cyrus' voice while keeping his condition a secret in order to give them both what they desire. Despite his confusion, he grudgingly accepts. Dell is on the porch when Alice and Colton return. With Alice observing from a distance, Colton proposes to Dell right away and Dell accepts. In the present, Alice interrupts Dell as she receives another foreboding letter to share her discoveries. When Dell finds out that Colton freely revealed Alice the truth, she becomes even more irate. Dell is still unhappy that Colton time traveled at all. According to Alice, he was traumatized by the entire incident and didn't want to tell Dell about it. Dell responds that they will discuss it further when Alice inquires as to why he returned on the day of their engagement. After a close-up of the engagement, we learn that Dell's father is having financial difficulties. Her family wasn't particularly happy to see her return, and it's the reason she was sent to Port Haven in the first place. Regarding her parents, who had lost everything, Dell remarks, money is who they were, and without it, they just changed. They stopped noticing her and focused on what they had lost, but now they have also lost her, she continues. Kat explains Susanna's arrangement to Thomas, stating that he is unable to travel across time by jumping across the water. Kat must remain in 1816 permanently if they hope to make things work. People enter your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, she says. Kat thinks Thomas was there for a reason, to teach her exactly what she desires in a romantic partner. When Thomas inquires as to whether Elliot will be here indefinitely, Kat responds, nobody should know their future. They grudgingly acknowledge that things cannot work, and Thomas says he will instead board a ship to see relatives in New York. As Dell listens to Colton's recording in the present, Evelyn, Dell, and Colton get back together in 1974. Without Dell knowing, Evelyn inquires as to whether he has completed packing from San Francisco. Colton now minimizes the chance, saying they have more important things to consider. When Evelyn hears that they are engaged, she breaks down in tears and tells them that you two are meant to be. Elliot walks up to Jacob and says he needs his assistance. He continues, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Kat is adamant that she can somehow make things better, but Elijah warns her that they must leave the house completely. Elliot shows up and gives her a passionate kiss as she sobs outside. He clarifies that Jacob took him to 1816, who has since returned. Elliot jumps right in to help once Kat introduces him to Elijah. When Thomas returns to the property, he finds Kat and Elliot together. From a distance, they momentarily meet eyes, acknowledge one another, and then part ways. In 1974, Alice discovers a sad Evelyn. She feels so alone that she believes she has nothing left to dream about. Alice argues that she has a large and lovely life ahead of her. Alice continues, I was always on your side. Asserting that Cyrus sent them himself, Susanna shows up with locals and materials to assist with fixing the house. Susanna stated that her first deed in Cyrus' name has to be for them, so Kat is aware of the truth. She claims she would have to omit her chapter about Cyrus if the book were ever released, since she wants to be the hero of Port Haven. Kat introduces Susanna and Elliot with passion, and she is equally happy that Susanna isn't being forced to make choices. Alice informs Dell that she persuaded Evelyn to go in the present. When Evelyn visits Colton and Dell in 1974 to bid them farewell, she declares that Lingermore is theirs for however long they require it. Evelyn informs Colton that she must let her go because she is his best friend. She looks directly at Dell and continues, don't let anyone stop you from pursuing your dreams. Delilah, I suppose you owe me one. In the cafe, Alice discovers Max discussing Evelyn's pendant on his keys. Max talks about how close he was to Evelyn and how she dropped her marital name because of the negative outcome of her young marriage. Max claims that because he couldn't bear it when Evelyn became ill, he was unable to answer her phone the night she passed away. He continues, I'll live the rest of my life regretting that. Though she claims to have given it to Dell, Alice shares with him the counsel Evelyn once gave her. Max stated that Evelyn's last message was exactly what she claimed. When they kiss, both of them instantly pull away. When Kat returns, she hears Alice ranting about the possible reasons behind her kissing Max. Rather than following a preordained destiny, they attribute it to feeling right. Alice claims that similar to how Teen Kat was to her in 1999, Evelyn might have easily been her best friend. Then Kat remembers the two of them playing a game of MASH with Elliot, but Alice doesn't recall it. Kat responds, "Or that hasn't happened for you yet." They discover Kat's journal entry, which attests to her previous presence. When Dell inquires as to whether one of them has seen Jacob, Kat responds that he must have taken the truck. While Jacob has broken into the fuel tank and started to burn the vineyard on fire, Dell discovers that Jacob's laptop is open and contains information about the winery wildfires. He is stopped by Dell, who tells him that he must let go of the past. Although she is able to persuade him to return to his truck and depart, CCTV has captured the entire incident.